Ernie Wilsberg came along and purchased the car. After in '82, when this car was winning everything, everyone wanted one just like it. But Maynard had already sold the normal style of cars with the higher bars and the Nerf bars up a little higher. He couldn't go back and say, well, those cars are no longer any good or not as useful. So that's really the reason why this car was the only one built that way.
When we come back after our commercial break, we'll take a look at yet another car here at Fine Line Speed and take a look at that and do some more comparison as we walk through the shop here in Stafford Springs. Attention auto enthusiasts, it's the biggest competition all-automotive flea market of its type in the country, featuring the best in oval track, drag racing, street rods, 4x4 and more. It's the Budweiser Auto Parts Swap and Sell, Saturday and Sunday, January 9th and 10th at the Big E in West Springfield, Massachusetts. New England's largest indoor all-automotive flea market with 400 vendors and 1 million parts and accessories. Auto Parts Swap and Sell, January 9th and 10th.
NESN has New England sports covered, and now we've got something to keep you covered, too. The NESN Golf Cap can be yours for just $4.95. The NESN Hooded Sweatshirt is just $18.95. And our colorful T-shirt is $5.95. Carry your NESN apparel in our gym bag. It's only $7.95. To order, send check or money order payable to Marketing Incentives, 588 Pleasant Street, Norwood, Massachusetts, 02062. Include $3 shipping and handling.
Welcome back to Race Week. You know, we've taken a look at some of the cars here at Fine Line, but there's still a lot more left to take a look at. The car I'm standing next to is another one of those cars that ran very, very well. This time, this car was pretty much known at Riverside Park Speedway. Stan Greger was the driver of the automobile, and the car was owned by Woody Fabriello. Tom, tell us a little bit about this car. What's going on here? We see a lot of bare metal, a lot of red paint, but what's the story on the Fabriello number 10?
Well, this car is in for 88 updates. It was in very bad need of a new front clip. This particular car is an '83 Troyer version. It was originally a Ray Miller 01. In 1987, during the winter, I updated the car to all 87 Troyer specs, meaning, for one thing we'll show you is the wedge bar from behind the driver's seat down to the right front here. The 87 style front clip. We've gone to a longer torque arm in it. The back has quite a few changes in it. Biggest changes are the vertical mounting of the shocks rather than a horizontal area. The back of the car is 2 inches shorter. You have some different stress bars in the back. Now, right here we have this tin removed to go to the 88 cockpit standards, which will make it much safer for the drivers. This particular car took a couple bad hits at Riverside, and it continued to run with a bent snout. It was bent about 1 inch, but it's always best to go through the car prior to the new season so you know what you're starting with.
Tom, you mentioned that the car was hit. A lot of race cars that we see running today, do they have damage to them? I mean, do they fix them as we might think at first hand, or do a lot of the teams try to get just a little bit more out of them and make some adjustments in the chassis itself to still make perhaps a damaged car still get the job done?
Well, with the front end, you can take it moved from left to the right 1 inch. It's about max. You don't want to run a car that's bent more than that. You just want to make sure that there's no vertical bends in it from left to right. That's very important with the handling of the car.
Tom, let's talk a little bit about the difference between running the bigger speedways like Thompson and Stafford and the short tracks like the Riverheads, the Riverside Park Speedway. What's the story? Now, you've repaired a lot of race cars. Short tracks cars, do they take the most damage? Or the cars that run the bigger tracks because of the speeds? Are those the cars that seem to suffer the worst of wear?
Well, most of the time, a wall like Stafford or Thompson will do a lot more damage naturally with the speed. But Riverside Park has had some major wrecks come out of there. Riverhead also. I know a few years ago at Wall Stadium, a car, the front end was wiped completely right off. It all depends exactly how the car does hit the wall. Riverside Park, you'll get a lot more suspension damage possibly or minor body damage. But usually you won't get major clip damage weekly.
Tom, let's also take a look at some of the other components that make up the combination on the front end, and let's talk prices there and what this equipment that you say shears off really costs. Is it really expensive or not, will be our next question.
Okay, first off, you have the front clip. It costs $500 to repair the front clip. You go through probably an A-frame if you get in a minor skirmish and you don't damage the clip. Upper A-frame's $40. Then you're talking ball joints. You also have to consider the cost of the tire and the wheel, which is probably $250 combined. You know, some guys want the chrome wheels. Naturally, they're more money. Things like ball joints and heim joints, you really should check on the car weekly, because they do get fatigued or bound up, and that creates a major problem.
Tom, let's talk about the work done on this particular car. We've got front-end work damage done, back-end work damage done here. When this car rolls out of the shop, just on the frame structure, the way we see the basic car right this very moment, roughly how much money?
Well, with the front clip, the rear repair work, and the cockpit tin, you're talking roughly about $900.
$900 of work done here. It sure looks like an awful lot more than $900 as you look at the fabrication. Next, we're going to be walking behind me and looking at another car. This is a brand new car. It's in its primer stage, and it's for one of the young contenders coming up through the ranks. Well, Tom, let's talk a little bit about this car. We said before, young up-and-comer is the owner of this automobile. It doesn't look like much. The color of the primer definitely doesn't help out the appearance of this one. Whose car? What does it represent?
First off, the primer is a zinc chromite. That's just so it won't get any rust on it. This car is Tommy Bowles' '88 car. It's going to be his #1 car. He is going to have a 2-car stable next year. We're making the changes to the cockpit tin. I have it sitting in the '88 Troyer jig. I do set every new car I have in here and check it against all the mounting holes, just in case. This car will have a Cavalier body on it. His '86 car will be converted to an '88, so he'll have 2 identical cars. I believe he will be running the Tour next year with these cars.
Next, we'll go and take a look at the number 44 Racing Enterprises automobile and a couple of other cars, and a car that's going to shock everyone in the New England marketplace.
Attention auto enthusiasts, it's the biggest competition all-automotive flea market of its type in the country, featuring the best in oval track, drag racing, street rods, 4x4 and more. It's the Budweiser Auto Parts Swap and Sell, Saturday and Sunday, January 9th and 10th at the Big E in West Springfield, Massachusetts. New England's largest indoor all-automotive flea market with 400 vendors and 1 million parts and accessories. Auto Parts Swap and Sell, January 9th and 10th.
The Bruins on NESN.
Svoboda hit by Neely. Stopped by Keynes! Oh, what a save!
I think they had called an offside pass. Fred.
Yeah, but he couldn't wait for that.
Right.
Nor could I.
The Bruins host the Winnipeg Jets for a Thanksgiving get-together Thursday night at 7:30 live on NESN.
Welcome back to Race Week. You know, this particular automobile that I'm standing next to is one of the strongest cars in the marketplace on the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour. The driver is Reggie Ruggiero. The owner is Mario Fiore, and the sponsors are Teddy Bear Pools and pretty much a cast of thousands. But car number 44 is one of the toughest cars to contend with on any racetrack, no matter what the size is. And this car, too, like a lot of the other front-running cars, is right here in the Fine Line shop. Tommy, what's this 44 Racing Enterprises machine doing here at Fine Line? What's the story on this one?
This car here, Ben, is the 44's B car. It's in for a new body skin and going through. The car is for sale, but if not, we will run it at the park next year.
What does a car like this go for? You say it's for sale. What roughly are they asking for?
Roughly, I believe, with a new body, they're asking $12 grand with no motor.
And it's a proven car, a winning combination by any standards.
Yep, this car has taken 5 tour shows, I believe.
Tom, the big news is not necessarily this particular automobile, but the car that sits in the corner. It's smaller than any other car in the room, and if you go by the old saying, small but powerful, this could be the car of the future. Let's take a look at that particular automobile on yet another jig here at Fine Line. What's this rig? It is smaller, more sleek, even in the design of the chassis and the fabrication than anything else we've seen in the room. It's wild, it's different.
Yeah, this jig, first of all, Ben, is the 44 Racing jig. I do all the repairs, and I will be building their type of cars. This particular car is a Mario Fiore designed takeoff of an Evans, but it's scaled down to the very minimum of NASCAR standards. The car is narrow in width, but yet
How much, when you talk about narrow in width, give us some actual dimensions. Is it 6 inches smaller than the other car, 12 inches?
Well, this, from the front hoop area across here, it's 38 inches center to center, where most other cars are roughly around 42.
Wow.
The frame rails are very narrow here. You can see how it kicks out to meet the NASCAR standards. The car is built very safe, but very small. Maybe a big driver couldn't fit in it, but as we know, Reggie's a small driver.
This is something that was just started this season, or is this a car that Mario and his crew have been preparing, or at least had on the planning stages for quite some time?
Yes, Ben, actually this car has been in this condition for over a year and a half. The 44 Racing built it to this point, and now I was contracted to finish it. This car will be ready for New Smyrna Racing and for the NASCAR circuit next year.
Very impressive automobile, and to our knowledge, this is the first time that this car has pretty much been seen by the general public anywhere in the marketplace.
Yes, it has. It was kept in the pretty tight wraps. There are a few cars similar to this. This car, the minimum standards on these NASCAR modifieds were taking off an earlier Richie Evans straight axle car, which was a very narrow car, and that was built 4 years ago. That car is still in existence today, racing as an SK without the straight axle front end.
Well, next we're going to be taking another walk around the shop here. In addition to that, we're going to be looking at some different types of fabrication, sheet metal work, and a whole lot more as we continue to walk through this, the fine line shop, and looking for, well, perhaps the hot setup for some for the up-and-coming year.
Here we have the sheet metal department. We're working on some new doors for the former 7-Eleven car. One of my employees, Paul Clapperud, is working on a left driver's door, trimming in the area to go around the roll bar. This door is of 22 gauge sheet metal. Some people use 20 gauge to 26 gauge. A 26 gauge being a very, very flimsy door, but it does weigh a lot less, and that's what the folks want. We're going to place this right side door and quarter on the car just to give you an idea how it will change from the old quarters and doors. This will go right on here, duplicate what was on the car earlier. You drill 6 holes in it and you place it on. It's bolted together at the seam. These panels, some owners would like to have a spare set in case of a crash. They can have it painted and lettered and all ready to go. Yes, in this operation we're performing, it's a metal brake. It's a 5-foot metal brake. We do a lot of the sheet metal bending in here. You just lift up and bend it to your desired angle. It's a very necessary tool in the race car business. The piece comes out formed in the angle you want. This particular machine here is used for tube bending. This is a piece of 1 3/4 outside diameter tubing used in roll cages. I'll give you a demonstration on how we bend it. This is a bead roller. The bead roller, what it does is it puts some strengthening beads in your sheet metal, adds a little design effect to it. You can see as Paul's rolling it through the design that it does make. That's just a demonstration. This is a piece that's done. You can go around in a circle. It adds a little life to the sheet metal rather than a bland sort of blankness.
Well, it's really been interesting to take a look at fabrication here at Fine Line Speed in Stafford Springs, but you know, there's somebody in the shop that we haven't had the chance to meet with this visit to Fine Line. He was once the star of Raceweek, and for those of you that have watched the program, you know who we're talking about. Max, where are you? Television time again. Come on over here, Max. Max, come here. We got a present for you. The cookie or the ball. Remember him? Get it. Go get it, Max. Well, that's going to wrap up another edition of Race Week. We hope you've enjoyed this look behind the scenes right here at Fine Line Speed and Fabrication. We want to thank Tommy Gavin and his entire staff for sharing the special things that go on during the off-season, some of which I'm sure that you've never realized takes place before the 1988 season will begin.
In addition to all of that, I want to remind you in shows to come on Race Week, we'll be visiting more shops of this type. We'll also be visiting individual teams who share with us what they go through during the cold winter months in preparation for a great spring and some championship racing. In addition to all of that, we want to wish each and every one of you the very best and a happy Thanksgiving. Again, we hope that you'll be tuning in next week for more of the best in New England motorsports coverage. We hope to bring you even more racing. Even though it's cold, there's still a lot going on in New England, and the only place to see it is right here with us on Race Week. Take care. We'll see you again next time for more of the best in motorsports coverage.
If you enjoy the sport of fishing and the beautiful New England outdoors, then join host George Doucette each week on NESN's Fishing New England. Whether it be the incredible offshore action of a 10-foot blue shark or the excitement that only a lunker